Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1218, 1218, April the 12th, 2020, Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Back to the new and improved Spygate. Nothing but Spygate issues, that's all I'm talking about these days, because it's crunch time. And there's some important news to cover today. Over the past 24 hours we've had some interesting things occur, so let's go ahead and get to that now. Well, yesterday was the Flynn mandamus hearing, which was this hearing scheduled for August the 11th, where you had the full panel of judges to listen to the argument whether or not they could go forward with this mandamus, the writ of mandamus issued by Judge Sullivan. Of course, he's got his hand-picked guy that he wants to prosecute the case, even though he's not actually a prosecutor working for the Department of Justice. He's just a friend of Judge Sullivan's. On the other side, you've got, of course, Sidney Powell defending Michael Flynn, and, of course, the Department of Justice defending their decision to drop the charges against Michael Flynn. So yesterday was the full hearing, and, of course, it's a very complex thing to get into. I only have just a few minutes to talk about it. But it looks like, to me, from what I could read about it, it looked like it was a pretty good day for Michael Flynn. Keep in mind, this panel of judges, I think it looks like about 10 to 12 judges on that panel. And I think they're D.C. Circuit Court, Appeals Court judges. So, they're liberals, most of them. I think there might be a couple that might be slightly center-right. Don't know if there's any Trump supporters there. But most of them are liberal D.C. judges. But even with that being said, there was certainly points raised by some of the judges that lead me to believe that Michael Flynn had a pretty good day. But I think the most interesting thing, the thing that we probably want to pay attention to as it relates to Spygate, the most interesting thing came up when the Solicitor General, who was arguing the case for Attorney General Barr and the Department of Justice as to why they feel that the case should be dismissed and that Judge Sullivan himself should be dismissed. He says at some point during the hearings, the Solicitor General, arguing on behalf of the DOJ and Michael Flynn, says, quote, "I just want to make clear that the Attorney General, Barr, had before him information that he was not able to share with the court," meaning non-public information from other investigations. So what we put in front of the court were the reasons that we could, but it may not be the whole picture available to the executive branch. So what he's saying here is that, look, we've given you a lot of good reasons why the Flynn case, why we decided to drop the Flynn case. We presented documentation. Clearly, the FBI didn't believe Flynn was lying. It was illegal, the way that they went about interviewing him to set him up. Many other problems, as we've covered them here on TowerGate. Many problems, many things discovered by Jeff Jensen, turned over to Sidney Powell and the courts. Clearly, plenty of evidence to show that this case cannot move forward. The whole thing was a setup. It was a frame up. It was politically motivated. It was illegal. There was never any crime. You can go down the list of reasons why the DOJ wants to dismiss the case. And that decision, we found out today, was made by Attorney General Barr to no longer prosecute General Flynn. But again, the most important thing I think that came out is that the Solicitor General arguing the case for the DOJ is basically telling the court that, look, we've given you all this information, but there's actually more information that the Attorney General had, which is why he made the decision he made. We're not able to share that information with you because it's part of other investigations. What investigations is he talking about? He's talking about the Durham investigation and the John Bash investigation. The U.S. attorney from Texas who's looking into the unmaskings and the surveillance and the 702 inquiries and stuff like that. And of course, Flynn was caught up in some of that kind of stuff. So both Durham and Bash are running into evidence as they do their investigations that would exonerate Flynn, but this evidence cannot be given to the court at this time because they are currently in the possession of Mr. Bash and Mr. Durham, who are going to be using that information as evidence to bring charges, possibly charges, against people who committed crimes. So they're not able to show the court this information, but the Attorney General, Barr, has seen this information. So it's information that he's both provided to the court as well as information that he cannot yet provide to the court. But eventually, this information will become public. And what he's saying is, look, you're going to look really bad down the road if you rule incorrectly on this case. We're saying we need to drop this case. We're saying that Sullivan and the case both need to be dismissed. And the Solicitor General is basically saying to this panel of judges, you know, if you decide to continue this game with Judge Sullivan, because he probably knows they're a bunch of liberals, he's basically telling them, look, you're going to get very embarrassed, because in the not too distant future, as soon as it becomes possible, the Attorney General has got other evidence that will leave no doubt in your mind that the Flynn case should be dismissed. He just cannot share it with you now. So I think that this is pretty much what the point that he was making. It wasn't a threat. It was more of a promise. It was more of like, hey, there's other information out there we can't share with you, but trust me, when you see it, you'll know why the Attorney General and we, the Department of Justice, are telling you you need to dismiss this case. And I think that that will probably resonate with these judges. They, like all other political people in D.C., and these are political people, Judge Contreras is in that group. Peter's been stroking us, his friend, Judge Contreras. We don't know if they ever did meet or not. Ben Strokinus talked about it with Lisa Page, but we don't know if that meeting ever materialized. But he at one point, there was a case he was involved in, brought by Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse, that he recused himself from. I think he was also one of the FISA court judges. So I think that's a very interesting development. I thought that's probably the most interesting thing that came out of the case. A lot of the legal scholars that I've looked at who watched the hearings today said it looked like a pretty good day for Flynn. So I think that these other judges, I don't know what's going on with Sullivan. As I've been saying for a long time, I don't know why a guy would sabotage his career and his reputation. Now, amongst lefties and liberals and others, I mean, he's probably a hero. But, you know, when this is all said and done, he has to know that he's not going to win this fight. The DOJ does not want to prosecute Flynn. He is a judge. He is not a prosecutor. He's going to lose. It appears that the only thing he's trying to do is he's trying to delay ending the case to keep Michael Flynn quiet. Now, I guarantee you that the day after the election, Sullivan will capitulate, if it even goes that far, and I don't think it will. But it appears that seems to be what the plan is here. And I don't know what kind of pressure is being exerted on Sullivan or why. I don't know if this is just his own personal war. I don't know, but it seems to me it's bigger than that. Because it's a personal war he's going to lose. He's going to lose this. I mean, he has to know that he's not going to win this fight. So the only thing he can be doing is trying to delay, and it appears like everything else, are trying to delay everything after the election, hoping that after the election the political landscape will change and they will be able to manipulate things in a way that saves their skin. But I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think they're wishing, they're dreaming. They are dreaming. But their dreams are going to become nightmares, and it's going to happen sooner than they think. Because I think these Flynn cases, I don't think they're going to be able to drag it out till the election. I really don't. We'll see, though. A lot of liberals on that court, they could drag their feet and postpone any decisions for a while. But I think the pressure is probably being brought by the Department of Justice as well. But I think that that's the message, and I think that's why this Solicitor General spoke to the judges in the way that he did. He basically said, in very lawyerly language, you know what, you guys, if you keep playing this game, now Judge Sullivan's already going to look bad. He's already stuck his neck under the guillotine, and it's going to get chopped off, and there's nothing that's going to help him now. Now, again, he may be a hero to the left. He may accomplish something. Maybe he's under duress. Maybe he's being extorted. Who knows why he's committing, judicial suicide. But for the rest of you people up here who value your reputation and your careers, when all the information that's available about this case with Michael Flynn comes out, if your ruling is anything other than to dismiss this case and the judge, you're going to look very bad. It was perfectly clear the message he was sending. And that tells us something else about Spygate. It tells us that as bad as what we've seen, as much as Jensen and Barr have released to the court and to Sidney Powell to assist Flynn, as much as they have done and as much as we have learned, there's apparently much more that both Durham and John Bash are sitting on that they're not ready to reveal yet because they're in the process of a criminal investigation. So there's obviously much more damning, more and more damning or more exonerating information out there that we haven't even seen yet. It's like I said, I think that we probably have seen or been privy to about maybe 25% maybe of the total amount of evidence that is out there. That's what's in the public domain, maybe about 25%. Now, we've been following the story for a long time, and it's not hard to, see the big picture. We don't have all, it's like a puzzle. We don't have all the pieces, but we have enough of the pieces that we have a pretty damn good idea what the puzzle is supposed to look like. We just need to fill in the details. But I do believe that we've only seen a small portion of it. I think that there's much, much more to come, and that will certainly back up everything that I've been saying here for several years now, and what many of you believe, and probably the reason why you watch the channel and others like mine. We know the Spygate fiasco happened. We know the coup is real. We know the deep state is real. We know everything that's going on, still going on. We know all that. But and we'll get more evidence that will support what we believe. I 100% know that. But I also believe that we're going to learn some new things when Durham and Bash and some of these other U.S. attorneys that are working specific aspects of this case. I think we're going to find out some new things that we didn't even know or haven't even thought about. This could be part of something much, much larger. Remember what happened here. They first were hell-bent on stopping Trump from getting elected. Then, once he was elected, they were hell-bent on driving him out of office and anyone around him. Why? I mean, elections happen every 4 years, and they win a few and they lose a few. I mean, they lost to Bush. He won 2 elections. Reagan won 2 elections, and Nixon won 2 elections. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But you don't see straight-up coup attempts. I mean, they called Bush Hitler, and they called Bush a warmonger and a war criminal and all these sorts of things. And to some extent, I agree with some of that, the war criminal part of it. Although I thought Bush was more of a dupe than anything else. But this is different. This is much, much different. This is closer to what went on with JFK, where you have someone who's just 100% completely unacceptable, can't happen to not just Democrat Party, but to much, much larger forces, not just in the U.S., but global forces who had issues. He had to be stopped. Why? Why? What, because he wanted to build a border wall? Well, the Democrats could tear that down. They could defeat him 4 years later and tear down the wall. Be a great campaign strategy. What, they didn't like his tax cuts? Well, they can raise taxes. They didn't like his trade deals? Well, that's a tougher one to undeal because people have been complaining about that for 30 years, ever since NAFTA happened, including a lot of Democrats, a lot of union labor people. these issues should not have warranted the type of reaction that we saw. So there's something else. There is something else, excuse me, much, much bigger that they are trying to protect. Something much, much bigger that they are trying to protect. And I don't think it's one thing. I don't think it's like, Pizzagate stuff or money laundering, or I think it's all part of something. There's something much larger. There's a much, much larger deal going on here. And all those things are just part of it. Trump is the bull in the china shop. I mean, he's just breaking everything. Everything that they built. And it's all built on a foundation of lies and corruption. It's decades and decades and decades of, systems, actually established systems of corruption and criminality that they have built, that they've spent decades and decades on. And Trump, in 2 terms, could destroy it all for them. I think that's probably what we're looking at. And what falls under that, it's probably hundreds of things. Hundreds of things, encompassing some of the most horrible things you can possibly imagine, including the pedophilia, the money laundering, the corruption. That's one thing. But you get into stuff like this pedophilia and this real dark stuff, the satanic stuff. That's the kind of thing that cuts too close to the bone for these people, and that's kind of the direction. Kennedy was kind of, inching toward that sort of thing. With Trump, it's even worse. So, yes, there's definitely something going on here. It's the question I have to ask is why? Why did they put themselves in such criminal liability? Why did they take such a risk? Why did they do it for? It was a lot more than just border walls and tax cuts. Something much bigger. Whether or not that'll ever be exposed, I don't know. Whether or not it could be exposed, I don't know. Whether or not people could even comprehend it, even if it were exposed, or believe it. Sometimes things are so extraordinary that they're just unbelievable. So that's the basic issue there. But anyway, yes, I think the most important thing coming out today or yesterday in that court hearing, there's information that both Barr, Durham, and Mr. Bash have that would be very powerful in the case of the Michael Flynn case to exonerate him, but they can't tell us what that is now, which means we're going to be finding out pretty soon what that is that they're talking about. Just a little follow-up on the story we talked about yesterday, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch, the 168 pages. So the 168 pages, in addition to everything else, shows, of course, that Peter's been stroking us and Loose Lisa Page were communicating with Confusion GPS and Christopher Steele in 2015, in the fall of 2015. That's long before July 31st, 2016, wouldn't you say? So yes, Loose Lisa Page, Peter's been stroking us, communicating with Confusion GPS and Christopher Steele back in 2015. And then we find out also from these 168 pages that Peter has been stroking us himself. Had a meeting just a couple of weeks before they opened Crossfire Hurricane, July 31st, 2016. Had a phone call. Wasn't a personal meeting, it was a phone call. Peter's been stroking us, had a phone call with Christopher Steele 2 to 3 weeks before they opened Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Now, as was pointed out by many people the other day, both in my comments section, we've been talking about this stuff for a long time on Spygate. This is not the first bit of evidence that proves that there was stuff going on before July 31st of 2016. There have been many revelations of things that were happening long before July 31st, 2016, which involved the FBI or some of their equities, like Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr and Fusion GPS, and Christopher Steele, and Mr. Misfit and Mr. Downer and Mr. Halper and all the rest. And of course, we know from the Horowitz report that Halper, we now know, was working for the FBI as an informant. Halper was working for the FBI, and he was in action back in 2014, so he first started off on Flynn, then 2015, 2016, so he's been in the game for a very long time as a confidential informant for the FBI. Of course, we learned that in December of 2015, we had that text from Strzok to Page about getting the Oconus lures approved. That would mean spies outside of the United States. That was December of 2015. Peter's been stroking us. That's long before July 31st, 2016, Operation Crossfire Hurricane. December of 2015, been stroking us and loosely Page talking about getting approval for their overseas spies. In that very same month of December 2015, it appears that Joseph Mifsud was at that RT dinner that Michael Flynn attended, which, of course, ended up, being one of the things that they were using to go after Flynn. And, of course, we know that Sidney Powell, in a court document, requested from the FBI the 302. She believes that there's a 302 from the FBI about what they learned from Mifsud, who obviously there at the RT dinner to spy on Michael Flynn. So Sidney Powell has either been told or believes for some reason that Mifsud was there on behalf of the FBI. Now, there's no longer any question that he was there. There's too many witnesses who saw him there. Mifsud was at the RT dinner. It has been in question for a long time. The December 2015 RT dinner, Mifsud was there. The only question is, was he there on behalf of the FBI? And if he was, then there would be a 302. Where is that 302? And that also means that the FBI would have been very familiar with Mr. Mifsud because he's one of their guys. And the idea that they would have tried to use him later as a so-called Russian or someone acting on behalf of the Russians to feed Papadopoulos would totally show their criminality. If Durham has got that kind of evidence, if Durham has got evidence that Mifsud actually is an FBI informant, woo, people are absolutely going to jail, and I mean for a long time. Anyone, if that's true, if Durham has got the evidence that Mifsud was an FBI informant and they knew it, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We also know that Halper was contracted by the FBI as an informant in September of 2015. So he was brought into the game in September 2015 by the FBI officially. He was obviously working for them before that, unofficially, or working through intelligence or maybe the Brits or someone else. But the FBI officially began paying him for a contract in September of 2015. That's the fat man, Halper, as an FBI informant. We now know that Bruce Orr met with Christopher Steele in October of 2015. We know that Nellie Orr was hired by Fusion GPS that same month, October of 2015. So we have all these things, and there's more. These are just some of the ones that we've covered over the past 3 years on TowerGate, 2.5 years. All things have been reported on in the public domain. So we know that this whole idea that the FBI wasn't involved until July 31st is a lie. And my guess is Durham has got all kinds of evidence. I mean, I just read some of it to you. He's got this, and he's probably got much more. And like I said, if Durham has got any evidence at all that Mifsud was working as an FBI informant, anytime in the last 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, that means that their whole story about Misfit being a Russian agent or working on behalf of the Russians, like they don't know who this guy is, would mean they were complete bald-faced liars. Big fat liars. And heads will absolutely roll if that is the case. If that's what Durham's got, people are absolutely, definitely, 100% going to jail for serious crimes. We have Carter Page coming out making a statement based on the interview that Stephen Schrage did with Maria Bartiromo. Carter Page says that, well, soon he is going to reveal a different version of events than the one Halper and Stephen Schrage are telling now. So apparently Carter Page wasn't impressed with Mr. Schrage's interview. Neither was I. We'll find out what Carter Page is talking about. I'm surprised he hasn't written a book by now. Maybe he has. Maybe he has. I can't remember. There's been so many books written. But we'll find out. He's got a couple lawsuits pending, and I imagine that's why he can't say a lot of things. But, you know, Carter Page is, I don't know why he's just not suing the Department of Justice or the individuals who targeted him personally in civil court. I mean, these are payouts. They don't even go to trial. But maybe he's waiting for all this to come out to, you know, help him in his case. He knows he's going to be a rich man, just a matter of time. How patient are you? That's the question. And again, back to this story with Lindsey Graham going on Sean Hannity. And, you know, I understand why Lindsey Graham is trying to cover up for the Senate. But to show you what a blockhead Hannity is, and the reason why I don't watch Hannity, I mean, Hannity has some good guests on his show when he lets him speak. So if I watch Hannity, I don't watch Hannity. I go to the video and I just drag my cursor over and I go right to the guest who I want to hear. And then as soon as I hear from whatever guest I want to hear from, I'm done. I just don't listen to it at all. But Hannity is such a blockhead. I mean, he's a blockhead. He doesn't get it. Never at any time as he's talking to Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham's saying, yeah, somebody has to go to jail. They lied to us. The FBI lied to the FISA court and they lied to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, the first questions I would have for Lindsey Graham, if I were doing the interview, would be, really? Well, that's not new news. That's not new news, is it, right? I mean, you already released the one document 6 months ago, you know, showing where in 2018 they were still continuing to push the exact same lie. So you're not surprised that they're lying, right? I mean, it doesn't surprise you that they lied to the Senate Intelligence Committee, right? And the Senate Intelligence Committee was involved in an awful lot of things. You know, Mr. Warner, Mr. Burr, a lot of other things I don't have time to go into now. But the question that I would have asked right off the top was, okay, Lindsey, when the FBI gave this briefing in 2018, spring of 2018, who did they give the briefing to? Was it the entire Senate Intelligence Committee? Just a few members of the committee? Just the Democrats on the committee? We know it was, at the very least, it had to involve the two heads, which would be Burr, the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and the minority leader of that party would have been, of course, Warner, Mark Warner. We know for a fact they would have been briefed. They would have been the two for sure. They're the two top Republican, top Democrat. And there may have been others. But that's a question you should be asking, and you don't have to wait for Judicial Watch, the FBI, the DOJ, FOIA. You don't have to wait for any of that. You just pick up the damn phone and make a call to Burr. If you're Lindsey Graham, you call Burr. He's your Republican colleague in the Senate. You say, yeah, man, I'm reading this. They briefed you guys back in 2018 and bullshitted you. Who did they brief? And who gave the briefing? Well, now we know it was McCabe. Lindsey apparently can't figure that out either. He can't figure out, all he's going to do is pick up the phone and call Burr. My guess is he's not doing that because he already knows. Because Lindsey Graham's a shill and a fraud. He's the one that told McCain to go give the FBI the dossier. Yeah. So the questions are, well, wait a minute. And here's Graham saying, somebody needs to go to jail. And there's Sean Hannity like a freaking blockhead. Never dawns on him in the entire interview. And it still hasn't. dawned on Sean Hannity that, well, wait a minute. If the Senate Intelligence Committee was briefed and they were given these lies, and we don't know who it was, but at least the top two guys, probably more, on the Senate Intelligence Committee briefed by the FBI and lied to, they knew that they were lied to at the very latest when Mueller released them, when Horowitz released the IG report. That's when they knew for sure that they were lied to. That was almost a year ago. But not a single one of those people, Republicans, Democrats, whoever, on the Senate Intelligence Committee, who were briefed on that and learned almost a year ago that they were lied to, not a one has come out and said a word about the fact that they were lied to and that someone should go to jail. Why is whoever it is who was briefed on the Senate Intelligence Committee covering for the FBI who lied to them? That's the big question. When you talk about somebody going to jail, Lindsay, it ought to be whoever's sitting on the freaking Senate Intelligence Committee. Did even worse than the FBI. What's worse than being lied to by the FBI? Covering up for the FBI who lied to you. And why? What a blockhead. Don't buy his damn book. Watch my videos. You'll learn much more. I've been so far ahead of Hannity. I'm way ahead of Hannity. I've always been way ahead of Hannity. And he's got a staff. All I got's me. And some of you in the comments section leaving me links. Some other YouTubers. Now, we talked a few days ago about the fact that Fox News, in their lawsuit with the Riches, want to interview Julian Assange. Their lawyers want to interview Julian Assange. I'm now going to give you some of the questions that they have, that they want to ask Julian Assange. What was Mr. Assange's role in the establishment of WikiLeaks? What was Mr. Assange's role with WikiLeaks in 2016? What was Mr. Assange's role in the release of the DNC emails? When were the emails provided to WikiLeaks? Which individual or individuals or entity provided the DNC emails to WikiLeaks? What individual obtained the DNC emails at WikiLeaks? Describe any role played by Seth Rich, to your knowledge, in obtaining those materials or providing them to WikiLeaks. Other than Seth Rich, has WikiLeaks ever offered a reward for information relating to a murder in the U.S.? Why did WikiLeaks offer a reward for info in the case of Seth Rich? Did Mr. Assange ever communicate with Seth Rich? Who else at WikiLeaks may have communicated with Seth Rich, if anyone? Has Mr. Assange ever communicated with a member of the Rich family, Aaron, his brother, Joel, or Mary, his mother or father? That's just some of the questions they want to ask Assange. Do you think they'll let Assange answer those questions? Do you think Assange will answer those questions? Is he fit to answer those questions? Those might be even more important questions. Boy, oh boy. This thing is unraveling. It is unraveling, man. I don't know where it's going. Things are about to get crazy. I do know that. Buckle up. Turbulence ahead. This is your captain speaking. Off we go. See you next time.